Good morning, Men of Morehouse, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our annual Otis Moss Jr. Oratorical Contest. And I think I should also say welcome to our viewing public because I understand we are being streamed live on the web. We will now have prayer by Mr. Ricardo Dunmoody, third place winner in the 2011 Otis Moss Jr. Oratorical Contest.
Amen. Let's pray. Father God, thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity for young men to come up here and really speak to the audience, speak to all of us in Morehouse, God, on how we can make more of an impact on this world. I pray, oh Lord, that they do well, that you set them at peace, and they can do the best that they can do. And I pray, God, that the audience walks away with something new, a new perspective on how to change the world. I pray, Lord, that this all glorifies you, and in your Son's beautiful name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Dunmoody. I would ask if there are persons in the lobby, everybody needs to be inside the room. So if you would just come in quickly, we need to use every moment this morning because we have an unprecedented 9 contenders who moved from the semifinals to the finals. This is really good. Morehouse College is known for producing great speakers. You know that. Men who can stir the emotions as well as stimulate the intellect, and of course, a Morehouse man is expected to speak well. The term oratory means the art of speaking in public eloquently and effectively. An orator uses a highly stylized form of language, often distinctly metaphorical and full of striking images presented in a compelling manner. An orator, then, is distinguished for his or her skill and power as a public speaker. In your program, you will see a brief history of oratory at Morehouse College and information concerning the revival of oratory here through this contest. We are immensely grateful to Dr. Otis Moss Jr. for his moral and financial support for this worthwhile event. Let's give Dr. Moss a round of applause. As you may know, Dr. Moss is former chairman and current member of the Morehouse College Board of Trustees. He is also former pastor of Olivet Institutional Baptist Church in Cleveland, Ohio. And he himself is indisputably one of the world's greatest orators. The information in your program will give you more detail. We are also blessed to have in our residence here at Morehouse College another great orator, one who is known for his ability to speak in a striking manner and a compelling manner and impart wisdom in a marvelous and mellifluous voice. And he, too, is in demand all over the world. President Robert Michael Franklin. At this time, I'd like to introduce the judges and timekeepers. The judges are, hold your applause until they are all introduced, Dr. Leah Criquet, Assistant Professor of English, Mrs. Carolyn Walker, Disability Coordinator, Dr. Allison Ligon, Assistant Professor of English, Mr. Alvin Darden, Dean of the Freshman and Sophomore Classes, and Mr. Henry Goodgain, Director, Office of Alumni Relations. Our judges. The decision of the judges is final. Do not approach the judges for anything before or after or during this oratorical contest. And now our timekeepers, Mr. Mikael Austin, Mr. Samuel Cockfield, and Mr. Cuthbert Casimir Cuffey III. Let's give our timekeepers a round of applause. And now for the guidelines for the morning speak-off. The contestants will come to the podium in the order in which they are printed on the program. The contestant will state his name. Once he states his name, the time will begin. Each contestant will be given 4 minutes. At the 3½ minute point, one timekeeper will stand and remain standing. This signals a 30-second time period remaining. At the 4-minute deadline, all 3 timekeepers will stand and remain standing. This means that the contestants must complete quickly in the speech in no more than 3 sentences, and any speaker who goes over the prescribed time limit will run the risk of being disqualified. And finally, Men of Morehouse speaking in public is very difficult. So we're going to give these gentlemen our respect. Do not applaud during the speech because you'll use up that time. You don't want to do that. But at the end of the speech, please give them the accolades by applauding, and then we'll move to the next speech. Thank you. The 2012 Otis Moss Jr. Oratorical Contest will now begin.
My name is Seth Lyndon Brown. There is a thief on the prowl, and this swindler is picking the pockets of every aspect of our lives. This villain that I speak of is so bold in nature that he dares not mask his face while he executes his highway robberies. Do not be mistaken of his reputation either, because he is as globally notorious as a Martin Luther King Jr., but as inextinguishably hated as an Adolf Hitler. The aftermath of his strikes on anyone who stands in his way is so catastrophic that they supersede any event that this world has ever witnessed. The strength of his blows can be likened unto the most potent venom in the most poisonous cobra bite, bringing even the strongest man or woman down to the ground. He shows no preference in his selection on whom he will perform his malveillant deeds upon, but his affinity is for preying on those that are weak. He is the source and is solely responsible for an incalculable number of meltdowns, as fire is the only reason for solid wax to liquefy. He knows no gender, sexual orientation, color, or creed, so you can appropriately label him as an equal opportunity offender. So many people shrink back from the task of confronting him in fear that he will choose them as his next victim. But it is time to address this uncontested adversary and furthermore live up to our calling as Renaissance men. Who is this villain that I speak of that wreaks havoc across our world? Well, I'm so glad that you asked. This villain that we speak of on this morning is known infamously as poverty. According to the United Nations Statistics Division, the calculation for the number of homeless people accounted for supersedes 500 million. My dear brothers, the astounding thing about this tragedy is that we don't have to leave the west end of Atlanta, Georgia, to see how true this statistic is. The poverty line appears as if it has thickened and has claimed another class of people in our world. As we scrutinize the crippling effects of poverty holistically, the entire world systems of government, we must not only view it as a socio-economic issue, but expand our scope and realize that so many people are sinking to lower levels of poverty in spirit. We as a global community have put down so many of the universally fundamental morals, values, and ethics that we once lived by, as an infant who does with a toy that it has outgrown. We have leaders who can no longer bring world-class solutions to our real-world problems, either because people's confidence in them has utterly crashed, or because they spend and exhaust all of their time hypothesizing about issues that they already know clear-cut answers to. Men of Morehouse, what we need now is more action. Men of Morehouse, what we need now is not more deliberation, but execution. The Bible unmistakably declares in the epistle of James 2:17 that faith without works is dead, which means that we must apply action to our convictions. This means that it should not take for a winter holiday to come full circle in order for us to provide to the destitute clothes, the hungry pantry staple items, or for the unemployed opportunities to make for themselves a better life. We all have to be awakened to the powerful truth that if everybody is giving something, no matter how great or small it is, then no one will be left without. Morehouse, if we want to be real real conduits of change, then we will have to model our every action after the image of love. What does love look like? I'm so glad that you asked. Well, it has the hands to help others. It has the feet to hasten to the poor and needy. It has the eyes to see misery and want. It has the ears to hear the sorrows and sighs of men. Despite all of the erroneous depictions that are disseminated to us through every avenue of media, this is what love looks like. So many people say that our efforts are futile. To poverty, solving poverty as a global ill are futile. But if we cannot succeed in an endeavor, at least let us be bold enough to attempt it. God bless you.
My name is Ahmad Cheers. We must shatter the silence of ineffectual solutions to global ills by giving voice to the voiceless. For if we are unwilling to address the simple sentiment of those souls wishing to shed the stigma of human indignity, we shall surely share in our mutual destruction. It is a fundamental feature of our known universe at every level, from the atomic to the intellectual, that which is ineffectual must give way to that which more perfectly fulfills the function for which it has been brought into existence. If we are to take on the heroic task of tackling global ills, and we commit ourselves to a vision of global community, and if we are to hope for any legitimacy or longevity in this world house, we must certainly come to recognize the contradiction that is homelessness, that in a world given to all, the few would see the many deprived of the most basic standard of human dignity. We must come to see homelessness as the evil and injustice that it is at all of its roots and interrelations. We must come to see the profound way in which homelessness affects us all and the particular way in which we each play a part in it. For even as the wayward wanderers of this world struggle ever on towards stability, we who have are still caught up in that inescapable network of mutuality with those who have not. And every indolence that we indulge in capriciously contributes to the destruction of that house we are so desperately trying to construct. And so it bears reflecting on the most essential lesson that I've learned about construction. The story goes that a young girl was badgering her father while reading the paper, and in his desperation, he whipped out a world map and cut it into pieces and set the girl the challenge of putting it back together. And she returned so quickly with it in place that he was forced to ask how she did it. And it is at this point that she turned the map over and showed a picture of a man. She said, "I put the man together, and the world came out all right." And so it is with all our building that we must be diligent of the foundations which we build upon. And it is for this reason that I submit to you, strange though it may seem, that in a dying world, the healing begins not with external action, but with internal. For a man that would seek to construct his physical world must surely check the foundations of his own soul to be sure of the soundness of himself. A great man once said, "O ye hypocrites, take the plank out of your own eye that you may see with more godly vision to remove the speck from your brothers." And as when we begin the oft painful process of self-improvement, that we will see in a different light. We will be forced to speak to the militaristic machinations of our nation that bomb our Middle Eastern brothers and sisters for oil. Forced to speak to the irreconcilable irony of a nation of immigrants that would deny a home to those that would seek one on the basis that they do not belong. Forced to speak to the careless corrosion we do to a man's very soul when we deprive him of the stability of having a place to call home. If we are to make right the major malfeasances of this modern society, we must pursue justice with an unrelenting urgency. And when I was a child, I can remember sitting in church listening to a song by Reverend Timothy Wright with a very similar sentiment. The song began, "You've been running and running, running for a long time. Your time is winding up. You better make up your mind. It's getting late in the evening and the sun is going down. You better get right while he may be found." And the songwriter goes on to ask the singularly most important question you will ask yourself. Where do you stand? And I've come to ask you to ask your soul today the same question. Where do you stand? I stand on the side of the golden rule. Where do you stand? I stand on the side of what Kant would call the categorical imperative, that we should act so that we would wish all of our actions to be universalized. Where do you stand? I stand on the side of the prophetic words of Jesus Christ, that we should do unto others as we would have them do unto us. Where do you stand? On Christ, the solid rock, I stand. All other ground is sinking sand. Thank you.
My name is Arrington Alexander Crawford. I looked into the mirror and saw nothing. This epiphany made my reality understand that I had lost myself a long time ago. You see, a mirror becomes useless when he who looks into it becomes blind. Not to the image reflected, but the internal one restrained, focusing his natural vision, but never the eyes of his soul. You see, as I speak, millions of people across America are looking into a mirror, secretly suffering from blurred vision, because a severe condition of their cataract is causing them to counteract the truth that is so clear. You see, from Anthony in Middle America, who was an honor roll student, but looks into this mirror and sees a gangster. Socially unaccepted, so he joined the gang to fit in, but now he's caught up in a game that he must finish to win, or else he has created his own end. Over to Kiamani in Kuwait, who was a ballet dancer, but now gazes at her reflection and sees a prostitute. Never caught a guy's eye, but someone wanted her for sex, so sent them a picture. Now it's all over the internet. But the only way to be accepted is to now accept it, because it eases the pain to have somebody want to pay for her body, but never pay attention to her face. Down to little Johnny in the jungle of Atlanta, who was a basketball player, but now intensely stares at himself in the mirror and sees a female. Caught up in sexual confusion, raped at 5 and that now he does not know what he likes, because he is all he's ever known. His feelings now pattering after a female, so he dresses himself up because it's easier for him to justify the habitual habits of his conditioned desire. Identity crisis has forced identity theft to become the supplement of these insecurities. You see, now convicted criminals of personality perjury and felons of fraudulent individuality, on the run from the law of themselves in hopes that they would leave no tracks that could trace back to the origin of who they really are, ever so perfectly counterfeiting the currency of their character with the watermark of somebody else's charisma. For you see, society is sick, but despite the numerous attempts to make it well again, the world's Caliginous solutions have left this modern society in darkness. But there is a simple solution. Few believe, some attempt, but many are just too selfish to participate in. It's called self-sacrifice. The sacrifice of yourself for the finding of somebody else. For yes, I believe that we can all stand here today and testify this morning that we have looked into the mirror of Mother Morehouse and allowed ourselves to once find ourselves ill with the same condition. But more importantly, we have allowed our spirits to look past the reflection of this mystique and discover the reality of our mess. But before we can allow ourselves to shatter the silence of the world, we must first cause ourselves and sacrifice ourselves to break the silence of us. See, you must understand, we must tell our testimonies of what we had to do to make it over. See, I know that your grandmothers once told you, and I know that your mamas once said that you should never air your dirty laundry. But what happens when that same dirt that tried to bury you now becomes the same dirt that has to help somebody else lift them up? I've come to declare to you this morning, my brothers, that you are the mirrors that the world has been waiting to see. The mirrors that they can look into and see the transparency of their same situations. You are the mirrors that make them realize that they don't hate themselves. They just hate what they have become to escape what they hated being. You are the same mirrors that cause them to realize they don't have to commit suicide, but they can pursue a sign that will teach them the patience of life. My brothers, you are the mirrors that have been called to reflect the world's situations. Silence, heal the silence and heal the land again. My brothers, I ask you this morning, have you understood and do you realize that you are the mirrors called to the world? So my question to you is, will you stand and be to Mother Morehouse what somebody has been to you?
My name is Devin Jerome Crawford. As socially conscious leaders, Men of Morehouse are charged to maintain an awareness and concern for the issues affecting the global community. I must say, however, that this charge, though honorable, is not shared with the governing powers of our country. The evidence of this statement is seen in the consistent exploitation which afflicts the poor and impoverished communities of America. Instead of social consciousness, I believe there is an air of ignorance. I suppose it was ignorance that allowed for industries and factories to be built on cheap land, which surrounds these impoverished communities. The waste and toxic fumes they emit are not only hazardous to the workers with basic health care packages, but also to the families who live near them. I suppose it was ignorance that allowed for grocery stores in impoverished communities to sell food below average quality simply because of a lack of funds. I suppose it is ignorance which allows for education to remain unchallenging and unbeneficial, depending on which school district you live in. It must be ignorance, which allows for these and several other issues to contribute to the plight of the poor. However, considering the longevity of these issues, it can easily be said that there has been a shift from ignorance to indifference. We no longer express an interest in the welfare of the impoverished communities of our world. We cannot divorce ourselves from the plight of the poor among us if we are to make practical changes which will benefit generations of impoverished communities to come. We must maintain an accountability for one another, and we cannot slip into a state of anonymity where the struggles of one person are of no relevance to another. The only way we can begin the work for the betterment of the poor is if we begin to value the unifying quality which we all possess, and that is our humanity. Humanity is the bond which inextricably connects all people, regardless of social status. It is what qualifies us as being a global community. And to devalue the humanity of a person is to validate the end of a civilized nature and disregard any possibility of peace. Peace within ourselves, peace with one another, and peace with God. We must work for the betterment of the poor and not inadvertently support the systems which would help them to remain exploited. In his book, Holla If You Hear Me, Dr. Michael Eric Dyson says that charity is no substitute for justice. If we never challenge a social order that allows for some to accumulate wealth while others are shortchanged, then even acts of kindness end up supporting unjust arrangements. We must never ignore the injustices that make charity necessary or the inequalities that make it possible. Dyson is simply saying that our acts of kindness and concern should never replace our yearning for social justice and equal opportunity. Though we may feed the hungry, shelter the homeless, offer medical care to the sick, it is not sufficient. We must continually work to rectify the systems which would allow for some people not to care for themselves. Therefore, our charge today is to shatter the silence. No longer can we remain indifferent to humanity's struggles. As men of Morehouse, I urge you to speak and work to end the exploitation of the least of these. Speak out in the spirit of commitment and community, that we will no longer permit for our brothers and sisters to remain victims of conscientious exploitation. My brothers, we are the clarion voices of our time, rectifying the crippling social and moral structures which fail to uphold and maintain our communities. Thank you.
Emmanuel St. Ange. I hear silence. When the Israeli schools and hospitals are bombed in the Middle East, I walk down a campus and hear the same thing in a classroom when a little girl in San Francisco is abducted at gunpoint. I heard silence. We as men of Morehouse come from diverse backgrounds, from the black elite to those of the working class, and yet we all face similar injustices. And in our complacency to simply put our own issues to the side and put up with them, we have been desensitized to the true issues plaguing our global community, causing us to respond with silence. Gentlemen, this world has some of the most beautiful things and horrible things to offer humanity. There are places like China where people die of thirst at a seaport simply because the water is saturated with bacteria that can twist and turn your digestive system inside out until death. And knowing all this, gentlemen, we still respond with silence. We attend an institution with the reputation of speakers and great orators who have practiced the art of speaking for so long. How dare we keep silent? When injustice is looking us dead in the face, we are the men of Morehouse, the ones that you can always tell, yet they can't tell us much. So what do we tell them? What do we tell them when we are told that a little girl is robbed of her innocence because we settle for a lackluster justice system that allows child molesters to go free, and yet our people are put in prison for getting high? What are we to say to the Ethiopian whose meals are so few and far in between that you can see their chests and their ribs on the inside, seeming that at any moment that they can collapse? What are we to say? Is it even our problem? I mean, you got yours, so they just need to get theirs, right? Maybe the government will take care of them, or possibly someone else will come along. No, gentlemen. These are Caliginous fallacies. These are excuses. Excuses that we use to justify not giving a hand to remedy the global ills. But honestly, how can we? How can we cure the global illnesses when the disease begins in our own minds? How can we heal the poisons of this earth when the poison is born in our very own hearts? We must assume responsibility because honestly, for the Men of Morehouse, service is not a spectator sport. We must not be satisfied with these half-brained solutions used in our country to pacify us. The wounds that our society has suffered cannot be healed with some simple Band-Aid. We need warriors. We need mavericks. We need kings. Kings who will not just wear the crown of glory, but who will grow tall enough to wear it and then push it for the next generation to do even more. This is Morehouse. We are the candles in the dark, the hope in despair. And when we gather to stand united and we give that roar, Morehouse, your house, at your service, the earth will shake, shattering the silence of Caliginous fallacies and ineffectual solutions to the global ills of modern society. We will take back our communities from the 40 thieves of iniquity. And when we stand on the steps of justice, pestilence will run for cover when we say, here we are. Thank you.
My name is Reginald Wayne Sharp, Jr. It was supposed to be a cool, calm night. A night in New York City on March 13th, 1964. However, that was a dark and dreary night for 29-year-old Catherine Genovese. While most individuals were walking into the corridors of their dreams, she was walking home to her apartment. And as she was walking, an attacker chased and stabbed her right in front of her home. Her screams were met with silence. Unfortunately, that gentle little lady died on the way to the hospital. The depressing and despicable news about this case is that it was later discovered that at least a dozen people heard her cries on that night and no one contacted the authorities. This situation is a socio-psychological phenomenon known as the diffusion of responsibility. The diffusion of responsibility is when a person is less likely to take responsibility for an action when others are present. Simply put, there's a strong tendency for each individual to assume someone else will say something or someone else will do something, so no one does. And although we may want to point the bony finger, the feeble finger of vituperation and vilification at the individuals who refused to assist Miss Genovese, I propose to you that we should pause for the cause and take a look within ourselves. For I submit to you that the greatest global ill of our modern day society is when we choose to sit in silence when we should be lifting our voices. There is some violence in your silence. Ironically, I saw a sign posted in the subways of Brooklyn, New York that read, if you see something, say something. And yet we see so much, but yet we say so little about the things that matter. It is as if we think that one of the five wells is well silenced instead of being well spoken. If we are to shatter the silence concerning the darkness of our day, we have to open our mouths ourselves and become the voice for the voiceless. If you see something, say something. Well, what do you see? We see politicians more concerned with economics than they are ethics. We see our citizens without any health care insurance and health care assurance. We see young innocent people being molested and abused by pastors and coaches all across our world. We see women still being treated like second-class citizens. If you see something, say something informative, transformative, and enlightening. There is a reason why Dante exclaims that the hottest places in hell are reserved for those who remain silent during times of moral crisis. Brothers and sisters, men of Morehouse, don't let it be said of you that you spent your time here on earth in neutral and in silence. Men of Morehouse, ask yourselves, am I a part of the Morehouse mystique, or am I a Morehouse mistake? When you step from time into eternity, let it be said of you that you were a bridge over troubled waters. Let it be said of you that you were a way out of no way. Let it be said of you that you were a lily in the valley, that you were the word made flesh and walking among us. If you see something, say something, but then do something, because men read history, but Morehouse men make history.
Antoine Simpkins. So we stand here on the edge of hell in Harlem and look out on the world and wonder what we're going to do in the face of what we remember. These are the words of celebrated Harlem Renaissance writer Langston Hughes, who with these words shattered the silence of Caliginous and ineffectual solutions to the then but also current global ills. Hughes, with his pen, wrote into the dispensation of time, forcing his audience to peruse the periphery of the psyche of the Negro mind, revealing one of the leading global ills that face the international community today: the psychological state of a people the world has labeled as black. The media portrays our children on television as starving and nearest unto death, insisting that a mere 10 cents a day will save their lives. However, this is an ineffectual solution, with the United States of America herself is raping Africa of her natural resources and providing guns to desolate countries to watch their people fight one another for desolation and for survival. The Negro population of the United States has been handed a Caliginous solution when the land of the free and home of the brave overnight financial resources to distant countries, but refused to send it to the least of these, suffering in Detroit, Michigan, and New Orleans, Louisiana. And here in our own backyard in the state of Georgia, we have seen Caliginous and ineffectual solutions submitted time and time again, as blacks are walking this city homeless more than any other demographic. Our children are erroneously educated in public schools. Black men are killed in Georgia at will with no supporting evidence, leaving Negro blood to drip from the carnivorous Republican fangs of the injustices done by the state, but yet champion its capital, Atlanta, as a place where a Negro can make it. All of these things culminate together and wonder with the Negro as he stammers through the vicissitudes of life, forcing onto the stage the words of the celebrated writer Langston Hughes: what are we going to do in the face of what we remember? In the words of Dr. Leonard Harris, the 21st century Negro population of the earth must now take on a philosophy born of struggle, refusing to be faces at the bottom of society's well. Let the record be bared and clearly understood that we are of a great stock. Our history does not begin at the ship of slavery, as this westernized world would have us to think.
We must go beyond the ship and discover Imhotep, who is the father of modern medicine and engineering. We must know that before there ever was a Mason, or a Prince Hall Mason for that fact, there was the ancient Kemetic mystery system. We must understand that before there was an Alpha, before there was a Sigma, before there was an Omega, it was our Egyptian forefathers that looked at the Greeks and said, "Sit down and repeat after me." We must understand that once landing forcibly upon these shores, that we took the religion of a white man called Christianity and turned it out with a beat and a Hammond organ. Today, the Negro has no other choice but to find himself as the biblical character Moses, as it is accounted of him in the account of Hebrew, who is said of him that once he had grown into wisdom, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, and we must do the same. We must stop fighting over the chair of victimization and realize that we are our own way out, dear brothers and sisters. We are great. We too are mighty. Our black is beautiful, and despite of what they tell us, say it loud and proud, echoing from the depths of your black diaphragms, that I am black and I am unmistakably proud. Up, you mighty people. You can accomplish what you will.
My name is John Alexander Watford. Men of Morehouse, we have been brought forward to shatter the silence concerning Caliginous and ineffectual solutions to global ills of modern society. There is a malevolence among us that must be addressed, or it will continue tearing mankind apart. A global ill that has always existed despite its incapability to achieve peace: war. First, I must ask each of you to consider your experiences at this institution. Everyone in this chapel has found a friend in someone from a different background who bears an entirely novel perspective on the world. We all have gained a greater understanding of other cultures at Morehouse College. However, many of us do not understand how great this privilege is. Where others have been bound by the constraints of religious, racial, and other ethnic differences, here at Morehouse College, we transcend the divides normally placed between us. At Morehouse, we are immersed in culture, tradition, and an overwhelming sense of brotherhood. Regardless of skin color, religious affiliation, or sexual orientation, we accept those among us as brothers, for better or for worse. It is for this reason that men of Morehouse must be the ones to put an end to war. Our world is being ripped apart by violence. Divided by the great chasms we make of our differences, mankind is teetering on the edge of its destruction. To prevent our demise, we must realize that war is the product of our fear of what we do not understand. To this day, the barriers of race and culture have proved nigh insurmountable simply because we do not take time to understand each other. To this day, people gawk at those the media has trained us to hate. As black men, this often culminates in the click of car doors and the sight of mothers hugging their children closer as we walk past. Our Muslim classmates and colleagues are bruised by the reverberations of hatred and suspicion from an attack that left followers of the Islamic faith weeping just as heavily as the Christians on September 11th, 2001. The war that followed brought us no victory, no greater sense of peace, and no further freedom. Our solutions have been ineffectual and caliginous. In order to combat war, we fight more wars. This strategy has not and will not solve anything. World War I did not bring peace. World War II did not bring peace. The Vietnam War did not bring peace. War inevitably births hatred, discouragement, and destruction. In the words of John F. Kennedy, mankind must put an end to war before war puts an end to mankind. That being said, it is up to us as global citizens to educate the world and establish peace. Men of Morehouse, I challenge you to take up the reins and steer this world towards the peace we desire. We must become ambassadors and teach that our differences do not make us enemies. I challenge you to learn about a new culture or teach about your own traditions. It is our responsibility to share our knowledge of ourselves and others in order to bring an end to misunderstanding, exterminate prejudice, and emancipate ourselves from the malevolent grip of war.
My name is Cullen Watkins, former 60 Minutes commentator and Johns Hopkins graduate. P.J. Aruch once said, "No drug, not even alcohol, causes the fundamental ills of society. If we are looking for the source of our troubles, we shouldn't test people for drugs. We should test them for stupidity, ignorance, greed, and love of power." Now, in no way am I promoting the use of illicit drugs or irresponsible drinking habits. I am merely saying that drugs are not the principal cause of our current global disputes, but rather more relevant issues of one's character that should be examined. Concerning the ills of modern society, Men of Morehouse have been, currently are, and will continue to be influential in not only addressing, but correcting the issues and shattering the silence to the Caliginous and Ineffectual solutions. One major global ill that our society struggles with is peace. This is an ill that Men of Morehouse have and will continue to address. On April 4th, 1967, exactly 1 year to the date that he was to be assassinated, Morehouse man and Nobel Peace Prize recipient, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his Beyond Vietnam Breaking the Silence speech. In this speech, he went on to discuss his disagreement with the Vietnam War and praised 70 Men of Morehouse for their choice of conscientiously objecting to joining war efforts. This was how Men of Morehouse shattered the silence. Currently, there are thousands of Men of Morehouse performing hundreds of thousands of hours of community service through their involvement in different organizations, and for some reasons, just to be a servant to their community, a servant in our community. This is how Men of Morehouse are shattering the silence. Today, we are not only setting the stage for future generations of Men of Morehouse, but also for the next generation of global leaders. The more we decide to shatter the silence by positively impacting our communities, countries, and world, the more doors we will break down for the next generation of Morehouse men to address. This is a cycle that is critical because this is how Men of Morehouse will shatter the silence. In Dr. King's Breaking the Silence speech, he said, "We must speak with all the humility that is appropriate to our limited vision, but we must speak." He later went on to quote the world-renowned Harlem Renaissance poet Langston Hughes as saying, "Oh yes, I say it plain. America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be." To the Men of Morehouse, I have one poem for you all. Oh yes, I say it plain. Mother Morehouse is a beacon of light in the midst of darkness, and yet I swear this oath, her light will shine around the world. Dr. King was a man with a vision that changed the world. He was a man with the courage to speak. He was a man that shattered the silence. To the Men of Morehouse, I ask, will you be a man? Will you be courageous? Will you shatter the silence?
On this day, the Men of Morehouse have indeed shattered the silence. Let's give these gentlemen another round of applause. Before we move forward, I want the judges to be dismissed. I need to talk about the new scanning system today. So keep your seats and allow the judges to move. I also want to remind you that in this very room next week at 10:45, not 11, we will hold our Founders Day convocation. The winners from this contest today will be honored by Dr. Otis Moss himself. I mentioned earlier our resident orator, Dr. Franklin. I see him, and the lovely Dr. Cheryl Franklin. Let's give them another round of applause. About midway his tenure here, President Franklin, after a Crown Forum, came to me, and he was frowning. That infectious smile wasn't there. His brows were furrowed, and he said, "Ann, we got to do something about this scanning. I don't like the idea of all these students bunching up." And I'm thinking, well, I don't know, maybe that's the best we can do. But he didn't allow second best, and the rest is history. Now, let me give you the guidelines. If you have this yellow sheet, it was on the table, and so this is how it's going to be. We have members of the staff dressed in maroon blazers at various places in the room. No sense in rushing out into the lobby, because that's not going to help you today. All right, students with working barcodes. You will approach the scanner, hold up your ID card, an infrared light will come on, your picture will show in the window. That means your attendance is recorded, and you can just go. If your photo does not appear, but an X appears, that means you may have a defective barcode, and you ought to come to the person standing here with a scanner. When you approach the scanner, the attendant will instruct you to put in your ID number. Once you log in your ID number, your face should appear. And that means your attendance is recorded. If your face does not appear, you should then see Dean Darn, who will also be in this area. Now, is that simple enough? Now, will the persons manning the scanners raise your hands as you step in the room, because we're not going to have all that running out as we've had before. After the singing of the hymn, they're not going to be in place until after the singing of the hymn. And once they are in place, we have scanners at every artery in this room, President Franklin. So we should get the Men of Morehouse out in record time. Someone said to me, well, we're going to need more time because these students need more time to learn how to do this. I'm betting you all going to do it today. This is not rocket science. And if there's a problem, we have a backup plan. So that being said, let us stand and sing the hymn, and you have a good day. Thank you for coming.